With the release of Season 5 a couple days ago, we got two new weapons, the STG44 and the Static HV-SMG. These are both pretty overpowered, and I'm going to prove that to you with data today. So TrueGameData is fully up to date with all of the most recent data from the patch for Season 5, so you guys can go check out weapons there if you want. But in this video, I'm going to cover those two weapons, show you the data behind them, as well as a couple new attachments that are extremely good that you should try to get unlocked immediately. This video is sponsored by War Thunder, so we're going to cover that a little bit later in the video, but just wanted to mention that at the beginning. First up here, we're going to talk about the STG44. This is the new assault rifle that is just really, really good. We're going to compare it to some other common meta options from the previous season. So I've got the STG44 in red, SVA545 in orange, Holger 26 in blue, and then the Holger 556 in green. Zoom in a little more on this for you guys so you can see it better. We're going to do combination and 300 health. And what you notice right off the bat is the STG has a ridiculously fast time to kill out to its first drop off at 36.8 meters. So it has a TTK of 600 milliseconds. That's like SMG speed or slightly faster than the meta SMGs even. So it's pretty crazy that it can get down to that time to kill all the way out to 36.8 meters. That's going to mean that it's going to be awesome for Rebirth. It's going to be awesome for any Resurgence mode. It's going to be really good as a sniper support. But it has so much damage range that it's even going to be awesome as just an assault rifle. So you can see it drops off hard and becomes one of the slower options out past that. It just kind of linearly drops off almost out to about 50 meters. So anywhere inside about 50 meters, you're going to be highly competitive with any weapon in the game. And then inside 38 meters or 36.8 meters, you're going to be killing faster than every other long range weapon out there pretty much. So that's why it's so good, because it just, a lot of your fights are inside 38 meters, 36 meters, and with attachments you can bring this out to like 45 meters or so, and we'll do the meta build here at the end of the video, but I want to cover why it's so good. That's pretty much why. I mean, it has controllable recoil. It's a little bouncy and very visually heavy, but the recoil pattern is extremely similar to the CR56 AMAX from Warzone 1, and it does this slow swooping up. I guess my camera's reversed for you, so it kind of does this slow like swooping up and to the left and then back to the right motion, and that basically is exactly what the AMAX was. So as far as controlling the recoil, it's going to feel very, very similar to the old AMAX, but the visual part of it makes the gun feel pretty different in terms of actual use. But just an excellent weapon all around. It hits hard, and inside that 36.8 meters, man, it feels like you're using an SMG, and it just melts people. So really, really good gun. Next up, we're going to talk about the Static HV a little bit here. So that is the new SMG. So I have the chart on 300 health chest shot right now against the Superior 46 in orange. And looking at the chart over on the left, you can see that at 0 meters, the Superior is at 630 milliseconds, the Static HV is at 657, and the Superior already wasn't quite as fast as some of the other options out there. So this might have you thinking that the new Static HV is not very good, but this is where some of the tools on TGD come in handy. So first of all, we're going to swap this to combination. So if you swap it to combination, you can see the lines immediately switch places. The Static HV now does 584 millisecond time to kill, and the Superior is still at 630. So essentially the Static HV, when you put it on the default combination shot locations on TGD, will jump down, and then we're going to use another tool to actually figure out why that is. So if we go up here, switch back to the Static HV, and then go look at it's called the STK tool. Is a very powerful tool on TGD that allows you to see how sort of that combination shot location stuff can result in different time to kill. So this weapon does 33 to the neck, chest, stomach, and upper and lower arm, and then 30 to the legs. So those are very quantized numbers right around 300 health, which is what happens to be the amount of health that targets have in Warzone. So looking at this, what this tells us is with one singular headshot, which does 42 damage, you would then only need 8 shots anywhere else on the body. So it doesn't matter if you hit any other shot location on the body in the first damage range. If you get one singular headshot, the TTK goes down to 584 milliseconds, which is the fastest of any of the SMGs that are meta options, and just really a crazy fast TTK in general. And it's not like you can't even change this with leg. Like, it will always be one shot on the head to reduce the time to kill. So this is one of the best combination STKs we've seen for an SMG or an AR in a long time. Basically just one headshot, doesn't matter where you hit the rest of the body, will reduce that TTK to just being a crazy 584 milliseconds. And another thing that's really good about the new Static HV, it comes with a 50 round mag by default. It has that very common 800 ish RPM fire rate that really makes it one of the meta options. And then basically this 50 round mag makes it so you don't need a magazine. There are no magazines on it, so that gives you essentially 5 attachments you can put on this. You don't need to waste a slot on putting a magazine on there. So it's just really, really good, and so is the STG. I think they're going to be pretty far and above the meta, so I would get them unlocked before they get nerfed. As I mentioned in the intro, today's video is sponsored by War Thunder. So War Thunder is like the ultimate vehicle combat game, so you get to control over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, ships from 10 major nations and use those for vehicle combat. The vehicles themselves are really detailed and realistic. They have awesome graphics. The sound effects are super immersive and realistic as well. We're going to talk a little bit more about the vehicles here in a second. War Thunder has over 70 million players worldwide. It's available for free on PC and console. One of the coolest things about War Thunder is how detailed the actual hitboxes are for the weapons. So you can see in the footage in the background here, as a shell from a tank hits another tank, for example, you can see how it hits each component inside the tank and disables those components or disables the tank in general. So all the different vehicles have this same sort of multi-hitbox realistic impact of these weapons, which I think is really, really cool. And the game has an X-ray mode that will show you when you disable someone else's vehicle or vice versa exactly what happened. So whether your shot went through the armor and hit the ammunition inside the tank and blew the tank up from the inside, or whether you disabled the crew. You can see all of that through this X-ray mode, and I just think it's really pretty cool. War Thunder has 3 separate modes that you can play. The first is the arcade mode, which is a little less realistic, a little faster paced. The vehicles are enhanced a little bit. It also has a simulator mode, which tries to simulate like realistic, real life combat, so that's much more hardcore, a little slower paced. And then it also has a realistic mode, which is somewhere between the two, so it's kind of a little faster paced, but still a little bit closer to realism than the arcade mode. So whatever kind of playstyle you want to have, you can find that in War Thunder. You can play War Thunder for free using the link down in my video description. It's available for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. If you sign up now using my special link, you'll get an exclusive vehicle decorator called the Eagle of Valor. You'll get 100,000 Silver Lions and 7 days of a free premium account. So be sure to check them out, and a big thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. I mentioned there are a couple attachments you want to get unlocked, so they've added this Quartermaster Suppressor. This does 10% gun kick, 23% horizontal recoil, which is huge. There's a lot of guns in this game that have just some nasty like horizontal recoil that we got to reduce in order to make those weapons viable. And then minus 10% vertical recoil. And now it does hurt your ADS time and sprint to fire quite a bit, at 8% and 5% respectively, but I mean, these recoil numbers are huge, especially for an attachment that also makes your weapon suppressed. So I think we're going to see the Quartermaster on pretty much all long-range builds from here out. I mean, this is crazy. This is like mixing the TY LR8, if you remember that from Modern Warfare 2 weapons. That was like a muzzle brake. Mixing that with having suppression. So it's just a crazy good attachment, and pretty much every long-range build is going to use that at this point. And then the other really good attachment is called the Paracord Grip, I believe. Yeah, so this does 15% horizontal recoil. Again, a lot of these weapons have just not been very viable because of the horizontal recoil components of them. So I think this is going to be a really good attachment as well. It does 4% move speed and 6% ADS movement speed and minus 13% sprint to fire. Just a crazy good grip, both for long-range weapons and close-range weapons because of the sprint to fire and movement speed benefits. That makes it really good for close-range weapons as well. So I think both of these attachments are worth getting unlocked as soon as you can, and probably going to start using them on most of your weapon builds. Quick look at the recoil plots. Recoil is a premium feature on TGD, which is always the best way to support all the work that I do, gathering all this data, building the website, building the apps, making the YouTube videos. Always the best way to support. Premium subscription, $5 a month on TGD. But anyway, enough self-promotion. Back to the charts here. So STG is in red, Static HV is in orange. You can see that the STG has that very AMAX-like recoil, like I talked about. It kind of starts out to the left and then goes back up to the right. That's exactly what the AMAX did. And then the Static HV kind of has a little S shape, so it goes a little S shape there, and then up to the top, it kind of straightens out a little bit. But it's an SMG, and like I said, you want headshots. So one singular headshot in that first damage range makes the weapon insane. So I'm not mad at the fact that it has 190 pixels per second of recoil rate. Like, that's a lot. That's very high. But all that's going to do is pull the shots up into the target's head, and you only have to hit one of those in order to get a crazy TTK. So it's weird that extra recoil can kind of make a weapon maybe even a little bit better in this case than it would have been without that. All right, so meta build for the STG44. I think this is the meta. I will do a follow-up video for the full long-range meta, but I think it's safe to say this is going to be the meta at this point. So, like I said, the Quartermaster Suppressor is just amazing for long-range weapons, so we're going to throw that on pretty much every long-range gun that we build. Just huge recoil benefits and keeps your weapon suppressed. We're going to pick that for the STG. Because this has such a crazy good time to kill in that first 37 meters, we want to extend that out as much as possible. But we also want to make the recoil manageable. I personally think there's like three pretty good barrels for this gun. There's the Bruin ACRUX heavy barrel, which gives range, bullet velocity, and some recoil help. Hurts your ADS, sprint to fire. There is the Heinrichter C70 long barrel. This gives the most range of any of them at 28% and a big buff to your bullet velocity. Hurts your ADS movement, sprint to fire, and tack spread by a little bit. But honestly, these penalties aren't too bad. The range and bullet velocity are huge, though. The one downside is that this barrel doesn't help with recoil, but I think that you can get away with it still, so that's what I'm going to pick. And there's another option down here. I'm not even going to... Ferngewehr. That's my attempt at saying the name here. 792 barrel. This does range, bullet velocity, and recoil just like the first one did, the Bruin ACRUX, but they have slightly different negatives, so you can pick which one of those you think is better. But I think the Heinrichter is the one that I would personally pick. 28% range, 21% bullet velocity, and then the penalties aren't really that bad for a long-range gun, so that's the one I'm going to pick because I think we can make the recoil manageable without that. Magazine, we're going to do the 50-round mag just to get the most damage per mag that we can. And then we're going to use the DR79 combat stock. So this does a bunch of recoil help, 21% gun kick, horizontal, vertical recoil, hurts your ADS and sprint to fire a little bit, but not a big deal for a long-range weapon. And this also helps with your firing aim stability, which is that intangible stat that I don't have a number for on TGD, but really helps with visual recoil and kind of tightening the pattern up a little bit. So that's going to be really, really good on there. And then pick your favorite optic. I think this gun works excellently well with the... I can never remember what it's called in the moment, but let me see if I can find it real fast. It's like the 2.5x Choreo Eagle's Eye. So Choreo Eagle's Eye is this one. We've got this new feature on TGD where you can look at the optics and see the reticles and everything. So that is the one that I think feels really, really good on this gun with this build. Let's hop into the game, go into the firing range. Let me switch over to game cap and then jump in the firing range and show you guys how accurate this thing is. So put it on 3 plates. And I have no problem just pretty much hitting every shot on that last dummy. I mean, it's just like laser accurate with this build. It's pretty crazy. So let me hold down for a little bit and then transfer onto the target so you can see kind of later in the recoil pattern. So even later in the recoil pattern, it almost gets easier later in the recoil pattern. So the gun's just massively OP. I think this build makes it the best that you can possibly build it. So you guys should get this unlocked, get that suppressor unlocked, and just go fry some lobbies. Onto the Static HV build. This is going to be a little bit of a weird build for an SMG, but just bear with me. So we're going to start with the barrel. We are going to put the Garrote 8 long barrel. So this hurts your hipfire tack spread, movement speed, sprint speed, and tack sprint speed by movement speed 4%, sprint speed 5%, tack sprint speed 6%. Now that's not great for an SMG, but 25% damage range is crazy. This takes your first damage drop off from 16 up to 20 meters when you put that on there. And then those movement speed penalties are not great, but this thing has pretty good movement speed already, and with some other attachments we can completely counteract that. So if you remember 456% for the amount that it hurt your movement speeds, let's look at the stocks real quick. We're going to put the Spry 34 light stock. This does plus 8% gun kick, so it's going to make our gun a little more like bouncy as we're shooting. 6% movement speed, 5% sprint speed, 6% tack sprint speed, 6% ADS movement speed, and minus 9% ADS time, so huge benefits there. That basically counteracts all of the negatives of this long barrel, besides the recoil. So we've got better ADS time, the same movement we started with, 25% extra damage range, and 8% more gun kick. So just with those two attachments alone, we basically have 25% extra damage range and, you know, the same movement speed with slightly better ADS movement speed. We're going to do something a little weird again. We're going to actually use the Quartermaster Suppressor. This thing is crazy, as we talked about for long range. 10% gun kick, 23% horizontal recoil, 10% vertical recoil. Hurts your ADS and sprint to fire, which is bad for an SMG, but again, we can counteract this with other attachments. So we are going to use that just because it turns this thing into an absolute laser beam. We are then going to use the DR6 hand stop. So this basically counteracts the negatives of the Quartermaster Suppressor. We've got crazy good recoil, extra 25% damage range, a little bit better ADS movement speed, And then with the DR6 hand stop, we're going to get even more movement speed. So we're going to have much more movement speed than the base weapon. And it helps 10% ADS time, 8% sprint to fire, which completely overcomes and makes those stats even better than without the quartermaster suppressor hurting them. The iron sights aren't very good on this, so I would recommend using an optic. It is a pretty bouncy weapon, so I would probably use the Jack glassless. You can search attachments on TGD now if you didn't know that. A little search bar up at the top. So we're going to attach the Jack glassless. So this build I think is ridiculously good. It's basically just better in every way and very, very accurate. Seems like right now the community is very into having these extremely accurate SMGs. So this is going to be fast, good movement speed, great sprint to fire and ADS time, and very, very accurate with 20 meters for your first damage drop off. So taking this into the firing range, it's very, very accurate. I pretty much hit every shot on the target that's at 25 meters. And it's pretty easy to control. You can see it wobbles back and forth a little bit left to right, but that's what that quartermaster suppressor with 23% horizontal is really helping with. So overall, I think this is crazy good build, really, really good ADS movement speed, good damage per mag, insane time to kill with a single headshot out to 20 meters. Definitely going to be the meta for a little while, so I would recommend getting it unlocked, get the quartermaster suppressor unlocked, and go to town. And once again, don't forget to check out War Thunder. The game is available for free for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. If you sign up using my special link in the pinned comment or the video description, you'll get 100,000 Silver Lions, as well as a Eagle of Valor unique vehicle decorator, and access to a premium account for 7 days. So thanks again, War Thunder, for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check them out. Alright everyone, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, the best way to support all of my work on Warzone is just through a direct subscription on TGD. $5 a month gives you access to all the premium features on TGD, like Metagen, True TTK Simulation, Best Stat Tool, Shots to Kill Calculator, all the advanced features, and it also just directly supports me and my ability to make YouTube videos and not have to make clickbait content. I can just make whatever I want and be honest with you guys, because I have a separate source of income. I don't have to rely on playing the YouTube algorithm. So I really, really, really appreciate any support. Thumbs if you liked the video, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you in the next one.